Order. Alors. Déclaration des députés.
Statements by members. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Loup. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of the fundamental roles of a government is to ensure the safety of its people. This is a fundamental part, the foundation of a democracy. Today we'll be voting on Bill C-349, which will establish a list of criminal organizations, as there already is one for terrorist organizations. This list will assist law enforcement agencies in doing their work. It is a good bill that will contribute to the safety of families. It is also one more tool to fight effectively against organized crime. The Justice Committee will be able to amend the bill if it feels that is appropriate. I do not claim that this is a magic solution to the problem, but the principle of this bill must be adopted. Let us support Bill C-349. Let us send this bill for consideration to committee. Let us take up the fight against organized crime. I'm calling on the courage and sense of duty of this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, today I would like to honour an influential man and a visionary in our community. Mr. Paul Larocque is leaving political life after 24 years of exemplary public service as Mayor of Bois-des-Filions. Mr. Larocque decided to devote more time to his family and to new professional challenges after having been elected 6 times. A testament to the appreciation the citizens of his city feel for him. I share that appreciation, having known Paul personally, having had the opportunity to work with him over the past 18 years on many files, the A19 to name but one, and having had the honor of calling him a friend. Known for his integrity, his social and political involvement, his economic vision, and his courage in the face of adversity, Paul Larocque modernized his city's administration and took on crucial regional issues. Paul, you inspire us and will continue to inspire us.
Honourable Member for Calgary Heritage.
Mr. Speaker, the City of Calgary is retiring. No, not my hard-working hometown, but rather a Boeing 747 airliner that has shared the city's name since 1989. Calgary aviation enthusiasts have been lobbying KLM to bring the plane to its namesake city before it is retired. Mr. Speaker, I think this is a fantastic idea. The City of Calgary is one of the oldest 747s in the KLM's fleet. Like its namesake, the plane is made of sturdy stuff. It narrowly avoided a crash just months after entering service, losing all power to its engines after flying through a volcanic ash cloud. The City of Calgary remained true to its name, however, and weathered a crisis to soar once more. Although named after my city, the aircraft has never actually landed there. Mr. Speaker, it is my hope KLM will support a Calgary touchdown so the plane can receive a fond and final farewell.
The Honourable Member for Vimy. Mr. Speaker, today I am honoured to rise in celebration of the Persons case. On October 18, 1929, this historic ruling to include women in the legal definition of the term person was made by the highest court of appeal in Canada, the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council in London. This ruling gave women the right to be appointed to the Senate of Canada and paved the way to their greater involvement in public and political life.
Famous Five, as we know them, were courageous women who pursued the case for recognition. As a woman, I can stand here today unequal to man because of their tireless work, and for that, I and women everywhere are forever indebted to them. We owe it to them and other groundbreaking women, past and present, to continue the fight for gender equality and women's autonomy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Timmins, James Bay.
Mr. Speaker, the boy, Canada's boy, has gone home to Fiddler's Green, and we are devastated by the loss of Gord Downey. The Tragically Hip have been the soundtrack of our nation, that cranked up, rowdy arena rock band that was both profoundly intimate and profoundly Canadian. I had the honour of knowing Gord a bit in my days as a musician. He wasn't just an incredible artist. He was a decent, loving human being who believed the world could be a better place. And in the face of his own mortality, he took his suffering and brought our nation on a journey of reconciliation and justice, because Gord wanted the nation to know that there are thousands of Chani Wenjaks out there today trying to find their way home from a system that has robbed them of their families, of their identity, and their culture. Go to the angels, Gord, and rock that choir, and we will watch those constellations and you reveal themselves one star at a time. Thank you. Merci.
Here, well done.
Honourable Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
Mr. Speaker, I have found the answer to the age-old question, where's the beef? Why, it's in Tweed, Ontario, of course, at the Enright Cattle Company, and it's making its way to our nation's capital. Karen and Darrell Enright will be pitching their business at Startup Canada Demo Day this week here in Ottawa as one of 4 finalists. And no bull, Mr. Speaker, as proud representatives from Tweed, they are the only rural finalists in the competition alongside companies from Toronto, Vancouver, and Ottawa. I think we can all agree that it's utterly amazing to see small entrepreneurs making it to the big time. The Finance Minister and I had a chance to talk with the Enrights at their farm this summer when we had a tour of their operation and heard about their innovative barcoding system that allows them to track their sustainable beef from farm to table. So move on over for the Enright Cattle Company. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's with excitement, sadness, but mostly pride that I rise today to recognize a key member of South Edmonton, Councillor Brian Anderson. Since 1998, we've only known one city councillor in our area, a city councillor who's better known as coach instead of councillor. He began his career as a basketball coach at Harry Ainley High School in Edmonton, but because of his desire to help and support our growing South community, he let his name stand for City Council. Since then, he has been a vocal advocate of encouraging Edmontonians to live a more active and healthy lifestyle. His efforts have led to the construction of several recreation centres and around our community, providing the opportunity for hundreds of kids to enjoy playing sports each and every day. Thank you, Coach, for all your years of service. I wish you and family the best as you head into retirement.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton East, Stony Creek.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to welcome Gordon Jandrokovic, Speaker of the Croatian Parliament, along with his parliamentary colleagues as they pay an official visit to Canada. In 1991, the Croatian people realized their centuries-long dream of an independent and democratic Croatia. Since then, Croatia has successfully held several parliamentary and presidential multi-party elections. Croatia is now a member of the UN, the World Trade Organization, the EU, an active contributor to NATO. Canada and Croatia enjoy solid relations, having signed 3 bilateral agreements in the areas of youth mobility, foreign investment protection, and avoidance of double taxation. Croatian officers have trained with our military, and today Croatia is a reliable NATO partner and has contributed to several UN peacekeeping missions. On a personal note, I am happy my Croatian grandparents chose to come to Canada, but I am intensely proud of my Croatian heritage. I wish to Speaker Jandrokovic and his parliamentary colleagues great success. Dragi gosti, dobrodošli u Kanadu.
The Honourable Member for Vaughan Woodbridge.
Mr. Speaker, we all know home is where the heart is. Today I recognize a Canadian success story, an incredible organization, the Green Park Group, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary. In
1958, at the age of 19, an ambitious Carlo Baldassarre immigrated to Canada from Italy.
Entrepreneurial spirit, Carlo co-founded the Green Park Group, which has built homes for over 72,000 Canadian families. A home is where our children grow up, where we make memories and communities come to life. Understanding this, Green Park Group has established itself as one of the largest Canadian home builders and whose generosity and charitable initiatives know no bounds.
Local businesses are the backbone of our economy, Mr. Speaker, and I am proud to represent a community with so many success stories.
Colleagues to join me in congratulating Carlo, his passion for success, and the entire team at Green Park Group for 50 years of building communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
Mr. Speaker, I join with Canadians from all walks of life today with a heavy heart and offer condolences to the family and fans of legendary frontman of the tragically hip, Gord Downie. As someone who grew up in Gananoque, just a few minutes from his hometown of Kingston, I had the pleasure of seeing Mr. Downie and the hip many times from their early beginnings when they played the Nash in Gananoque and the Lakeview Manor in Kingston. Gord Downie wrote the soundtrack to many of our lives, and the music he leaves behind will ensure that his legacy as a singer, songwriter, poet, and of course as an advocate for many issues, especially lately the impact of residential schools, remains in our collective memories. Gord's music, his lyrics, his melodies, and his stage presence touched us all in a very personal way as he wrote so many songs that made us better understand our country. He was unique, driven, inspiring, and he was never trying to compete with anyone but himself. He will be sorely missed by all Canadians.
The honourable member for Willowdale.
Mr. Speaker, it's my honour to rise today in recognition of a truly remarkable Canadian, the late Warren Almond. Mr. Almond, as we all know, was the Member of Parliament for Notre-Dame-du-Grâce from 1965 to 1997 and served variously under Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau as Minister of Corporate and Consumer Affairs, Indian Affairs and Northern Development, and as Solicitor General. As Solicitor General, Mr. Almond cemented his legacy as a tireless defender of human rights both in Canada and abroad, and played a key role in the landmark abolition of the death penalty in Canada in 1976. In remembrance of his untimely death last year, I invite all members of this esteemed House to join the Almond family this evening at a reception in the Wellington Building to celebrate the life and legacy of this remarkable Canadian. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good job.
Honourable member for Etobicoke Centre.
Mr. Speaker, in 2005, as I walked down a dusty road in Johor, Somalia, a small girl walked up to me and took my hand. She was barefoot, with only a torn t-shirt to wear. Yet when she took my hand, she beamed the most beautiful smile. In the years since, I've often thought of that little girl. Did she ever learn to read and write? Did her black curls turn reddish from malnutrition? How had violence impacted upon her life? Was she, in fact, still alive? Over the decades, Somalis have faced civil conflict, the anarchy of warlordism, violent extremism, famine, and now they grieve as they try to come to terms with the horrific terrorist truck bombing in Mogadishu that took over 300 lives with over 400 wounded. Members of this House grieve with them. To my Somali brothers and sisters, I extend my heartfelt condolences. Somalia, Waligid, Hanulata.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, cancer takes a terrible toll. No one is immune, whether they be rich or poor, fit or sedentary. Fortunately, there are citizens everywhere who are involved in giving hope. Today in Ottawa, I am greeting volunteers on the board of Relay for Life in the regional municipality of L'Érable. Serge Bartel, a man with a huge heart, has led his team to go above and beyond and achieve extraordinary results. In 2017, Relay for Life was given the Award of Excellence from the Canadian Cancer Society. Even if our relay is being held in a small area of Quebec, our results are grand. With more than 17,000 lights sold in the most recent event, this is definitely one of the biggest relays in the world. On behalf of my colleagues in the House of Commons, I would like to acknowledge the work and dedication of volunteers, walkers and survivors in the Relay for Life of L'Érable. Over the past 11 years, too many have left us, but the thousands of lights keep them in our hearts. We have exceptional solidarity in a community that stands together. Thank you, Serge. Thank you, volunteer friends. Thank you to the Relay for Life in L'Érable for keeping 17,000 lights lit.
Honourable member for Surrey Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Diwali is celebrated across the world, brings people together to reflect on victory of good over evil and the power of knowledge and hope over ignorance and despair. On October 19th, in my riding of Surrey Newton, the Festival of Lights will be celebrated in a big way with an amazing fireworks display at the brightly lit Lakshmi Narayan Mandir with Mata Lakshmi prayers and Kirtan. Also on this day, many of my constituents will be celebrating Bandi Chhod Divas at several gurdwaras throughout my riding. I want all members of this House to join me in wishing all who are celebrating across the great nation a happy Bandi Chhod Divas and happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali. The honourable member for Churchill-Kiwatanuk-Askey.
Today we celebrate Persons Day. 88 years ago, women were legally defined as persons in Canada. This decision paved the way for some women's participation in public and political life. Indigenous women continued to face racist barriers that prevented them from getting involved in politics publicly. Immigrant and working-class women faced other barriers. In the fight for equality, nothing has been given to women. What's been achieved is the result of tireless struggle and solidarity. This week, as millions of women took to social media to share their experiences of sexual harassment and sexual assault through #MeToo, we are reminded of the inequality we still face. As we look ahead, there is much to fight for: justice for missing and murdered Indigenous women, an end to sexual violence, child care, economic justice. We need men to own up and step up, and we need to move beyond the individual acts and work together collectively to push for system change and achieve the equality and justice we deserve.
Honourable member for Parry Sound, Muskoka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise today to mourn the death and to celebrate the life of Gord Downie. Gord Downie was a true poet of the Canadian experience, and his band, The Tragically Hip, has chronicled life, love, joy, and justice for over 3 decades. The Hip, of course, and of course its frontman, Gord, was a uniquely Canadian band. All people could relate to them and feel that they were speaking to and about us. Gord, of course, has been in our hearts since his diagnosis. He used his remaining time to maximum effect, championing Indigenous rights and reconciliation. His sense of social justice was legitimate, and his passion burned bright. And of course, the final tour of the Hip last year became an iconic Canadian moment. It felt like all Canada came together because in Gord we trust. And so, as we bid farewell to Gord Downie, we express our condolences to his family and express confidence that Gord Downie's example will help us live with no dress rehearsal, because this is our life. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Kingston and the Islands.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the passing of a true Canadian legend, Gord Downie. We will remember him as one of the greatest artists of our time. Gord and the Tragically Hip started playing for Kingstonians in small pubs in the 1980s. Quickly winning over the hearts of Canadians, they rose to be known as Canada's band thanks to Gord's stories through his songs, his wild antics, and his rantings on stage. However, Mr. Speaker, for all of his achievements and recognition, Downie was loved and admired for so much more than his talent. Perhaps what is most remarkable about Gord is that he chose to use his fame in a way to build up others. And none of this was more true than when finding out his time was limited. Even with his personal struggle, he recognized that there were others facing challenges much greater than his, and so used his fame to advocate on behalf of Indigenous communities. I encourage everyone to remember Gord Downie for exemplifying what it means to be Canadian, both on stage and off. Thank you.
I understand that there is agreement for a moment of silence in honor of the late, great Gord Downie, and I invite members to stand. Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, another day, another scandal involving the Minister of Finance. We learned yesterday that the Minister of Finance continues to have active control over all of his personal assets. In his family business, millions of dollars. So, when did the Prime Minister learn that the Minister of Finance still controlled millions of dollars in personal wealth? Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance was elected nearly 2 years ago, and at that point he consulted the Ethics Commissioner and followed all of her advice. That's what people expect in this place, and that's what Canadians expect. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance just wrote a letter to the Ethics Commissioner to see if there's anything else that he could do to go above and beyond that original request to show the highest level of integrity which Canadians and everyone in this House expect. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Ooh, a letter, Mr. Speaker. Well, the Prime Minister can't defend this conflict of interest. The Minister of Finance develops bills and laws that could have a considerable impact on any investor. And the fact that he is still managing his personal fortune in Morneau-Chapelle, it was worth $30 million a few years ago, and now it's worth over $40 million. So when did the Prime Minister learn that his finance minister still controls tens of millions of dollars in this personal fortune? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I said, the Minister of Finance worked with the Ethics Commissioner from the very beginning to make sure that everything was up to date and to follow her advice and work with her on the subject of how he could be a finance minister with integrity. He followed her advice and he's remained open to talking to her. He even asked her if there was anything else he could do to go above and beyond her original requests.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, that wasn't the question. It was when did he know? Now, speaking about following the letter of the law, here's a quote for the Prime Minister. The Finance Minister must, and I quote, uphold the highest standards of honesty and impartiality, and both the performance of his official duties and the arrangement of his private affairs should bear the closest public scrutiny. This is an obligation that is not fully discharged by simply acting within the law. Now, you know who said that? The Prime Minister in his mandate letter to the Finance Minister. So once again, when did the Prime Minister become aware of the Finance Minister's conflict of interest?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when the Finance Minister first got elected 2 years ago, he approached the Ethics Commissioner, as many of us did, to talk about his situation and to ask her advice on how he could ensure that all the rules and all the principles are followed. He followed all of her advice and indeed has recently asked her if there's more he can do to go above and beyond what she originally asked of him. That is the kind of integrity Canadians expect from all members of this House.
Order. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
You know, Mr. Speaker, all summer long, the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister traveled across the country, calling pizza shop owners and mechanics and farmers tax cheats who are trying to avoid paying their fair share of taxes. Now, all the while, if the Finance Minister truly wanted to find a wealthy Canadian who is using the system to avoid paying higher taxes, all he had to do was turn slightly to the right, where he would find the Finance Minister who is doing exactly that. So when did the Prime Minister become aware that the Finance Minister continued to control his personal fortune?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, over the course of the summer, we've heard from Canadians, small businesses, middle-class Canadians who are looking forward to making sure that the system is fairer. That's exactly what...
Order. I'm having trouble hearing the Prime Minister. I'm having trouble hearing answers. I want to be able to hear them so I know if someone breaks a rule. And I remind members that most members in this House are able to sit through a question period and hear things they don't like. both members in all parties, without reacting, without blurting things out, like adults. And I encourage the rest to do the same. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in the election campaign, we committed to supporting the middle class and those working hard to join it, and to lower small business taxes to 9%. That's exactly what we've done. We know that hardworking small business owners deserve all the support we can get because they create jobs, they create economic growth. We're proud of the work the Finance Minister and this government has done to support small businesses right across this country.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
That's what they'd like us to believe, Mr. Speaker, but what they were actually doing this whole time was protecting wealthy millionaires and those trying to hide it. Minister still owns $40 million in shares in his family business, Morneau Chappelle, a business the minister is responsible for regulating. That business will directly profit off of target benefit pension plans, which the Liberals are introducing in Bill C-27. So can the Prime Minister confirm that his Finance Minister recused himself from any and all discussions on that bill?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what we promised to do in the 2015 election campaign is actually said, as we reduce the small business tax rate to 9% from 11%, we will ensure that Canadian-controlled private corporations are not used to reduce personal income tax obligations for high-income earners rather than supporting small businesses. That is the promise we made in that election campaign. That is what we are doing, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
The honourable member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata-Lévesque. Prime Minister's answer doesn't make any sense. The Minister of Finance is trying to justify his unjustifiable position through a loophole, which the Ethics Commissioner asked to be closed in 2014. Which loophole is this? Well, instead of keeping the shares in his own name, he placed them in a company where he is the sole shareholder. Does the Prime Minister think that it's acceptable that the Minister of Finance do something indirectly that he's not allowed to do directly? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, despite what she may have said in 2014, in 2015, the Minister of Finance consulted the Ethics Commissioner to get her opinion about how he should proceed to follow all of the existing rules that govern us here. He followed the recommendations that she made, and as he said, he's always available to do more if she recommends that he do so that he can go above and beyond her original request. The Honourable Member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata-Lévesque. A finance minister's responsibilities can come into conflict with the company that he controls. For example, in his speech from 2013 that he gave when he was at Morneau Chappelle, he said,
enabling target benefit plans and shared risk plans in all Canadian jurisdictions. In
2016, he tabled Bill C-27, which does exactly that, and which will directly benefit his company. I have my definition of conflict of interest. Can the Prime Minister give me his? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, here in Parliament, we have an Ethics Commissioner who helps us ensure that we meet all of the ethics and conflict of interest rules that exist. The Minister of Finance worked with the Ethics Commissioner to ensure that right from 2015, he was respecting the rules. He continues to work with her, and he even has asked if there's anything else he can do to go above and beyond what she said in 2015.
For Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder when this Prime Minister will finally take a little bit of responsibility for this rather than trying to throw the Ethics Commissioner under the bus. Instead of selling millions in Morneau Chappelle shares or even putting them in a blind trust, the Finance Minister chose to stuff them into a numbered company. He personally owns 1/3 of this company, while the other two-thirds are owned by a second company. And who owns that second company? The Finance Minister does. So what happens when you add 1/3 and 2/3 other than a Finance Minister in a whole mess of trouble?
Yeah. You're right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think the member opposite that needs to take a sharp look at who he's throwing under the bus. The finance minister worked with the Conflict of Ethics Commissioner, followed her recommendations and advice, and has continued to. The fact is, by following the rules, by following her recommendations...
Order. I'm unable to hear the answer. Order. I know that members all want to have order. Order. I know that all members want to have their say and put in their word, but they have to have confidence in those who actually get the floor to do that. Now, Right Honourable Prime Minister has the floor. Order.
Mr. Speaker, in this place we have a Conflict of Ethics and Interest Commissioner in whom we have confidence. We expect that when she gives advice to do something or to behave in a certain way, we follow that. That is why we continue to have confidence in the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner and the advice she gives to us all.
The Honourable Member for Skinner-Bulkley Valley.
The conflict of ethics, Mr. Speaker. I think that's what they call guilty in a court of law. Only liberals can find virtue in coming clean after you get caught. The Prime Minister says that putting their holdings in a blind trust, and is his words, quote, the gold standard. The opposition, the media, Canadians, even liberals, even the company Morneau Chappelle all believe that the Finance Minister had placed his wealth in a blind trust. And you know what? He never once corrected the record. A clear question to the Prime Minister. Did he know? And if he did know, what did he do about it, or does he even care?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
House to work with the Conflict of Ethics and Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner to follow the advice that she gives. That is what we do in this House, and that is one of the ways we go above the partisan politics and the personal attacks to have confidence in the work that each and every one of us does in this House.
Alors.
Order. The Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, here's what we've observed. The Prime Minister hid his holiday on a private island from the Ethics Commissioner, and now the Finance Minister did the same thing for 2 years by hiding his French villa and by refusing to put his assets in a blind trust. Mr. Speaker, when did the Prime Minister learn that his Finance Minister held assets in his company in a sector that he himself regulates, that he fully controls? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I've already answered this question. We know well that the Finance Minister worked with the Ethics Commissioner to ensure that all of the rules were respected when it came to his personal assets. But again, we are working very hard to deliver on our promises for the middle class, for small businesses. We've lowered taxes for small businesses we're going to lower them to 9%. We lower taxes for the middle class. We increase them on the wealthiest, and we will continue to do exactly that. The Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca. It's unbelievable, Mr. Speaker. The Minister of Finance says that he's led by a desire for fairness in his tax reform, and the Prime Minister is trying to say that too. But how can they propose changes that will personally benefit them while attacking our small businesses, our farmers, mechanics, restaurant owners, and the middle class? I have a simple question for the Prime Minister. Is it too much to ask that he force his Finance Minister to disclose all of his assets to Canadians? Right Honourable Prime Minister. On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, those mechanics, small business owners, farmers, and fishers will all have lower taxes because of this government's actions. We committed to lowering the small business tax rate to 9%, and that's exactly what we're doing. And we're doing this while ensuring that the wealthiest are not able to use those mechanisms as a way of avoiding paying the same tax rate as the middle class. We will always defend small businesses. We will always defend the middle class, and I am very proud of the work that this government and the Finance Minister have done.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to ask the Prime Minister to focus clearly on what the question is, because we're not getting the answer. When the finance minister was first elected, he clearly said that he was going to put his vast fortune into a blind trust. We learned 2 years later that in 2015 he had a choice between selling the shares and putting them in a blind trust, and lo and behold, they're done. He did neither. Mr. Speaker, I want to know one specific thing. When did the Prime Minister learn that the Minister of Finance did not dispose of his shares in accordance with the Ethics Commissioner?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as is the case for all our ministers, I knew that our ministers, each and every one of them, have worked with the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner to ensure that her advice is followed in their personal affairs. This is something that matters to all parliamentarians, and it allows us to focus on the things that really matter to Canadians, like lowering taxes for small businesses, like lowering taxes for the middle class and raising them on the wealthiest 1%, like delivering a Canada Child benefit that gives more money to 9 out of 10 Canadian families. That is what this government is focused on, not the petty politics that the members opposite are focused on.
The Honourable Member for Milton.
I'd like to tell the Prime Minister one thing. Where I come from in Milton, Ontario, it's not petty to want to make sure that your Minister of Finance is actually... in this House is now shrugging off responsibility. It's a personal matter. It's not his to look after. It absolutely is. And a shame on the Prime Minister for not having the decency of ensuring that his finance minister is following the law.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, my responsibility is to ensure that this government stays focused on the things that matter and that we follow all the rules. That's why the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner gave clear advice to the Minister of Finance, which he followed and which he will continue to follow. And if she wants to make any more recommendations, he will be happy to go above and beyond. We remain focused on the folks in Milton, the folks in 337 other ridings across this country, as we lower taxes for the middle class, as we raise them on the wealthiest 1%, as we lower taxes for all small businesses, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, after months of calling hardworking Canadians tax cheats, we now know that the Minister of Finance found a loophole and has all of his Morneau Chappelle shares, by the way, about $40 million worth of them, tucked away for a rainy day in a numbered company in Alberta. The hypocrisy of this is mind-boggling. But what is beyond mind-boggling is the Prime Minister defending this, saying he knew about it all along, and he's perfectly okay with it. Is that where the Prime Minister stands today on this finance minister's using loopholes to cover up and protect his assets? Is that what we're hearing?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Apparently, unlike the members opposite, I still have confidence in the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner. She gave clear advice to the Minister of Finance. He followed that advice. One of the reasons we have a Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner is to avoid the gutter politics that the members opposite are involved in right now, making wild accusations when the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner is there to protect members on this side of the House and members on that side of the House. We have a system in which Canadians can be proud. We will continue to defend that system.
The Honourable Order. The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the fig leaf that the Prime Minister is trying to hide behind is getting smaller and smaller by the moment. Mr. Speaker, we have a Minister of Finance who has for the past 2 years owned tens of millions of dollars worth of shares in Morneau Chappelle. All the while he's been doing two things. First of all, making a whole lot more money in the last 2 years. Second of all, enacting legislation that benefits that company. We're going to give the Prime Minister another chance. Does he defend the behavior of this Minister of Finance making money off of assets that he's owning while enacting legislation as Minister of Finance?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to talk about the behavior of the Finance Minister. The Finance Minister lowered taxes for the middle class and raised them on the wealthiest 1%. He's contributed to the creation of hundreds of thousands of jobs across this country, record numbers over the past 10 years. We now have the fastest growing economy in the G7. The Finance Minister put forward a strengthening of the Canada Pension Plan that will secure retirement for generations to come, and continues to look at ways to help Canadians, like, for example, delivering the Canada Child Benefit, which helps 9 out of 10.
Order. Honourable member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman, I'd ask to listen.
The Honourable member for Berthier-Maskinongé. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance could make millions of dollars in profits thanks to a bill tabled in this House that he himself wrote. This might be the most flagrant case of conflict of interest we've ever seen. If Bill C-27 were to pass, Morneau Shepell would make more money, and the Minister of Finance would be able to cash in. It's completely unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister admit that his Finance Minister has completely betrayed the trust of Canadians? Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canadians place their trust in this government and in this Finance Minister because we promised to invest in the middle class, to help economic growth, to help families who needed it. That's exactly what we're doing. We lowered taxes for the middle class, and we increased them for the wealthiest Canadians. We delivered the Canada Child Benefit, which gives more money to 9 out of 10 families, and we strengthened the Guaranteed Income Supplement for the most vulnerable seniors. We are continuing to invest in infrastructure all across the country, infrastructure that will help our communities and their individuals, and we will continue to create economic growth for all Canadians.
James Bay, order.
Mr. Speaker, the boss at Morneau Shepell told investors in 2013 that legislation was required to go after defined pension benefits, and voila, he introduced Bill C-27. And Morneau Shepell told investors this legislation would be a game changer. Now, the Prime Minister is talking about a gold standard of ethics. Gold for who? For the Finance Minister who's now making $150,000 a month? A blind trust ain't going to cut it. Will this Prime Minister withdraw Bill C-27 and his Finance Minister's blatant attack on the pension benefits of Canadian workers?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We are proud of the work that the Finance Minister and indeed this government has done to support organized labour, to support workers across this country. We're going to continue to put money in the pockets of the middle class and those working hard to join it, because we know that's the best way to grow the economy. When we invest in the middle class, when we support the middle class, whether it's small businesses or single moms or hardworking Canadians from coast to coast to coast, we know that the entire economy benefits. We're going to stay focused on the promise we made to Canadians to grow the economy in a way that works for everyone. That's exactly what we're doing.
Honourable member for Carleton.
Ministers are banned from owning stocks. To get around that, the Finance Minister stuffed his stocks in a numbered company in Alberta. While Finance Minister, he earned $13 million in gains from a financial company that he regulates. When did the Prime Minister learn that his Finance Minister had over $40 million in stocks in a company that he regulates?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Apparently, unlike the members opposite, I have confidence in our Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner, who was fully updated on all the personal situations of every member of our government, and who worked with each one of them, including the Minister of Finance, to ensure that everything they did was conform to the rules and to the principles that govern this place. We will continue to be fully confident in the capacity of the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner to do her job, and I really would recommend that the members opposite do as well.
Order. I'm going to ask the honourable member for Battle River Crowthorne to try to restrain himself. I'm sure we all listen to the questions and the answers. Honourable member for Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, this Finance Minister used a loophole to keep himself invested in a financial company which he regulates. He earned $13 million while finance minister, through the use of that loophole.
Wow.
All the while going across the country calling honest plumbers and farmers tax cheats. Mr. Speaker, when did this finance minister know that his finance minister had shares in Morneau Shepell?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the finance minister has helped us in a time when we have the fastest growing economy in the G7. He has lowered taxes on the middle class and raised them on the wealthiest 1%. He increased the guaranteed income supplement for our most vulnerable seniors. He strengthened the Canada Pension Plan for future generations. He's been finance minister through investments in infrastructure across this country. They're going to create millions of good jobs and secure our communities and their futures for many years to come. These are the kinds of things that Canadians expect from this government. These are the things that we're staying focused on.
Honourable member for Carleton.
The finance minister is actually staying focused on something else, and that is growing his family fortune.
Yes.
He used a loophole in order to get around the ban on ministers owning stocks.
Shameful.
This is the finance minister, the country's most powerful financial decision maker, and he kept secret from the Canadian people over $40 million of investments that he had in a company that he regulated.
Unbelievable.
When did the Prime Minister learn that?
Yeah. Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
The finance minister has contributed to the creation of over 400,000 new jobs, most of them full-time across this country. Since December 2015, unemployment rate has dropped from 7.1% to 6.2%, the lowest point in nearly 9 years. We have cut taxes for the middle class by raising them on the wealthiest 1%. We have ended the sending of conservative child benefit checks to millionaire families so we could give more money to 9 out of 10 Canadian families and cut child poverty by 40%. These are the things the finance minister has been focused on. These are the things Canadians elect this government to deliver.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, based on public filings, Morneau Shepell has been sending million-dollar checks to this millionaire finance minister, Mr. Speaker. He has continued to own shares in a publicly traded company that he regulates. This is the finance minister, the man who's supposed to regulate our financial markets, and yet he has a $40 million secret stake in one of the most powerful companies in the country. When did the Prime Minister learn these facts?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I can understand why the members opposite just want to make personal attacks and sully the good name of members across this way because they have nothing to say on the substance of what we're doing. For months we heard them shrieking.
Order. Order. Right Honourable Prime Minister has the floor.
For months, Mr. Speaker, the members opposite went on and on about how we were attacking small businesses, even though we were doing no such thing. We demonstrated that we are moving forward on keeping our electoral commitments to lower the small business taxes to 9%, while at the same time ensuring that the wealthiest Canadians didn't benefit from tax advantages that the middle-class Canadians do not. This is our focus, Mr. Speaker, and it's no wonder that they have nothing to do but sling mud.
Honourable Député.
The Honourable Member for Salaberry-sur-Roi. Order. The Liberals are pitiful, Mr. Speaker. During the election campaign, the Liberals promised to change our inadequate laws regarding bankruptcy and put an end to the theft of pensions, but still nothing 2 years later. If they had acted sooner, they could have protected Sears workers and retirees. It's as though their promise no longer exists. Radio silence. Strangely, today we found out that Morneau Shepell, that will be in charge of Sears Canada's liquidation plan. I'm hearing echoes of the sponsorship scandal. Has the Prime Minister forgotten his promise because the status quo? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I expect this cynicism from the Conservatives, but it's very disappointing to hear it from the NDP. We will continue to work with Canadians and with workers who are going through hard times, especially in the retail sector. And we will continue to support families, workers, our seniors, to make sure that they can trust in their future. That's what this government is doing every day, and it's what we will continue to do.
Member for Hamilton Mountain.
They certainly ain't supporting the middle class, that's for sure. Mr. Speaker, workers at Sears Canada are very worried about whether their pensions will be protected. But guess who has been appointed to administer Sears Canada's pension plan? Morneau Chappelle. This is a company that advocates transferring more risk from employer to employee. This government promised they would fix our bankruptcy laws, but they have done nothing. Furthermore, if Bill C-27 becomes law, the finance minister will profit off workers getting stuck with weak pensions. So, simple question for the Prime Minister. Is this the real change he promised working Canadians?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our hearts go out for the workers who are affected by the decisions taken by Sears. We're making every effort to connect Sears employees and pensioners with programs and services that will help them get through this tough time. I understand current Sears Canada pension fund assets are held in trust and must be used solely for the benefits of pensioners. Service Canada has been meeting with representatives of Sears Canada to ensure a rapid national and coordinated response to meet the needs of the impacted employees. Approximately 80 sessions have already been delivered across this country.
The Honourable Member for Brampton North.
Mr. Speaker, this year is the 38th Small Business Week, which celebrates Canada's entrepreneurs and small businesses, from mom-and-pop shops in Brampton, like Tea by Daniel, to innovative giants. Small businesses truly are the backbone of the Canadian economy. This week, over 208 events being held from coast to coast to coast give entrepreneurs the opportunity to network, access business advice and solutions. Could the Prime Minister tell us how our government is helping small businesses in Canada?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member from Brampton North for her question. Our government always has and always will support hard-working Canadian entrepreneurs and small business owners. This week, we announced that we are delivering on our commitment to reduce the small business tax rate to 9%, and that you would have to have, at 5% returns, over $1 million sitting in your account to be impacted by our proposals. We all benefit when Canadian businesses are strong and creating good middle-class jobs for Canadians and those working hard to join the middle class.
Honorable Deputy.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lobinière. Mr. Speaker, by secretly keeping his shares in the financial services company that he heads, the Minister of Finance was able to collect $13 million in passive income and capital gains in the 2 years since he took office. Ministers cannot hold shares. To get around this rule, he put his shares in a numbered company in Alberta. He got around the ethics and paid less in taxes. Mr. Speaker, when did the Prime Minister find out that his Minister of Finance was using a loophole to hold shares in a company that he runs? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, what's troubling is not just these personal attacks against the Minister of Finance, it's the attacks against the Ethics Commissioner, because the Minister of Finance worked with her to make sure that everything was in line with the principles in place and will continue to do so. If there are other recommendations to go beyond previous recommendations, he will continue to do so.
Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, a question through you to the Finance Minister, though we know the Prime Minister is speaking for the Finance Minister again today. It's a simple question, which I hope the Finance Minister will make himself available to the House to answer sooner than later. Mr. Speaker, when did the Finance Minister advise the Prime Minister? When did the Prime Minister learn that Canada's Chief Financial Officer so deliberately offended the spirit of the ethics law?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to once again highlight that during Prime Minister's questions period on Wednesdays, I'm happy to take all questions from all members opposite. Furthermore, in the time that the Finance Minister has been elected, he worked with the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner to ensure that his personal holdings conform with the rules, principles and laws that regulate us all in this place, and will continue to do exactly that.
Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
The Finance Minister has been secretly holding $40 million of shares in a financial services company. The Minister regulates pensions. His company administers pensions. He introduced a bill to promote target benefit pension plans. His company administers those plans. His tax proposal coerces small businesses to open individual pension plans. His company sells those plans. When did the Prime Minister learn that his Finance Minister still owns $40 million of shares in a financial services company he regulates as Minister?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's actually fairly interesting. For months, we heard nothing from the Conservatives except concern about our proposals to make the tax system fairer. And yet, now that we've laid out what we are doing and we're always intending on doing, they have nothing to say about that. They have fallen back on personal attacks, on throwing mud, on calling into question not just the Finance Minister's ethics, but the Ethics and Conflict of Interest Commissioner herself. That is really where the members opposite have ended up, because they know that the proposals we put forward for small businesses and Canadians are the right ones.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
The Finance Minister is forbidden from owning stocks in finance companies, but he used an ethics loophole to stash the stocks in a numbered company in Alberta. So the same Finance Minister who has called farmers and plumbers tax cheats for using what he calls loopholes used an ethical loophole to keep his stocks, which have made him $13 million while he's been the Minister of Finance. When did the Prime Minister learn that his Finance Minister used ethics loopholes to pocket $13 million by owning stocks in a company he regulates as the Minister of Finance?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
And now we see clearly, Mr. Speaker, that the supposed concern the members opposite had for plumbers and farmers and electricians and small business owners was nothing. Because as soon as we put forward the proposals that demonstrate that we are going to be supporting small businesses while making sure that the wealthiest Canadians pay their fair share of taxes, they have nothing to say on that. They completely forget all the arguments they made over the past months and do nothing but personal attacks and slinging mud both at the Finance Minister and the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner. Shame on them, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member. Order. Order. We could shorten question period here, folks. Order. Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
Everyone knows that Bill C-27 furthers the private interests of the Finance Minister. The Conflict of Interest Act states a minister is in a conflict when, quote, he or she exercises an official power to further his or her private interests or those of his or her relatives. So will the Prime Minister just admit that his Minister of Finance has violated the Conflict of Interest Act, or is he just too busy working hard for the French villa owners or those who are working hard to become
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our focus remains on supporting the middle class and those working hard to join it. That's exactly why what we've been doing, lowering taxes for the middle class, raising them on the wealthiest 1%, delivering a Canada Child benefit that helps 9 out of 10 Canadian families, staying focused on strengthening the guaranteed income supplement for our vulnerable elderly seniors, or helping students get back to school with upfront grants and more money. These are the kinds of things we're focused on, and all the while we trust in the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner and the recommendations she makes to each and every one of us in this House.
Honourable Member for Skeena Bulkley Valley.
The Minister kept calling this a conflict of ethics. So I wonder how many sets of ethics do Liberals actually have that they have a conflict between one set and another. Yeah. He said he's focused on what he thinks is important. Well, a finance minister setting up a numbered company to exploit an ethics loophole is important to Canadians.
Yes.
He says that this finance minister breaking his own ethics code is, quote, petty politics. We think protecting Canadian pensions is important and don't think a conflict of ethics is petty politics. Yeah. So when he's going to apologize for his dismissive remarks and finally take some action about this blatant abuse of public office? Yeah.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Again, Mr. Speaker, when the opposition has to retort to nothing other than mudslinging and personal attacks, we can see that the government must be doing something right. And we are, because we are investing in lowering taxes for the middle class, in raising them on the wealthiest 1%, in lowering small business taxes for Canadians right across this country. We know that small businesses are at the heart of the economy. They're the employers, the local community hubs that make such a difference in our towns and cities right across this country. And we're going to continue to stand up for small business owners and grow the economy in ways that the previous government never could.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, the Liberal government has a serious credibility problem. It's living in a world where the middle class does not have access to it, and the word of this government has a very short life cycle. The more the Liberals promise something, the more people should be worried. The attack on farmers through tax reforms is an ample demonstration. The Parliamentary Secretary for Canada-US Relations was clear. The government has room to negotiate supply management with the Americans. Can the Prime Minister confirm that the Parliamentary Secretary was revealing the government's real position? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I can speak for all the members on this side of the House and say that we will always defend supply management. It's a previous Liberal government that implemented it. The Liberal Party and all the members of the government will continue to defend supply management. Unfortunately, the members on the other side of the floor cannot say the same thing. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. On October 11th, during a televised debate recorded and broadcasted in the United States, the Parliamentary Secretary said, "Is there room to discuss and negotiate? Of course." The truth is that the Liberals are ready to make concessions on our own supply management system, contrary to what the Minister and the Prime Minister say. Will the Prime Minister rebuke the Parliamentary Secretary for opening this door to the Americans? Any concession will have disastrous consequences for dairy, egg, and poultry farmers. Will the Prime Minister commit to completely protecting the supply management system? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I am encouraged to see the enthusiasm with which the member on the other side of the floor is defending supply management. Here on the side of the Liberal Party, I can assure you that we will always continue to defend supply management. It's a system that works for our farmers, for our consumers, and we have negotiated many international agreements, but we can do that without infringing upon supply management, which we will always continue to defend.
Kamloops, Thompson, Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, Jennifer Catchaway's parents have every reason to feel betrayed. They lost their beautiful daughter, an 18-year-old, on her birthday. They have spent years waiting to tell their story, and at the Murdered and Missing inquiry, they were told, "Oh, you can have a couple of minutes, that's it." The Prime Minister is responsible for this process. How can he justify such an insult to the victims of murdered and missing Indigenous women?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls across this country has been a national tragedy for decades now. And we know we need to bring healing for the families, justice for the victims, and put an end to this national tragedy once and for all. And that's why this government, despite 10 years of saying no and of refusing to act on this by the Conservative Party, this government has moved forward on the difficult process of a national inquiry into the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And we are working hard with this inquiry to ensure that everyone is heard.
For Humber River, Black Creek.
Mr. Speaker, October 18th is Persons' Day, a day which marks a pivotal moment in Canadian history. when in 1929 women were legally recognized as persons under our Constitution. Can the Prime Minister please tell this House how we can honour the legacy of the famous five who stood up for women's rights and to advance gender equality in Canada? Thank you.
The Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member from Humber River Black Creek for her question and for long-time advocacy on behalf of women's rights in this House. Famous Five member Nellie McClung once said, "Yesterday's successes will not do for today. Women must claim the place they have won." Although 80 years later, women and girls are claiming their place, there remains much more to do for gender equality to become a reality. On Persons' Day this year, let's renew our commitment to make a difference in the lives of women and girls and ensure everyone's voice is heard, regardless of their gender identity.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, the government will have to approve in a few weeks the sale of C-Series from Boeing to Airbus. We know that the government gave millions of dollars to Boeing, or rather to Bombardier, to help out with the C-Series. Now, Canadian taxpayers need to be repaid. My question is simple. Given the current approval conditions of the agreement between Bombardier and Airbus, will there be a specific condition to repay Canadian taxpayers? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I can go even further. Not only do we expect we will be repaid for the loans we made to Bombardier, we expect that there will be jobs for Canadian workers until 2041, if not beyond. These are good jobs for the middle class in the aerospace industry, and we will always, as I've always maintained in this House, defend the interests of the aeronautical industry in Canada and the jobs associated with it.
Mr. Speaker, Citizens for Public Justice reports people living with disabilities are highly vulnerable to poverty, particularly those facing multiple discriminations. The median income is almost half the median income of those without disabilities. And while we appreciate this government's upcoming legislation on accessibility, we know that people living with disabilities face many more issues. So I ask the Prime Minister, will the Liberals' accessibility legislation address this poverty crisis, or will this government at least offer income support through other means?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member opposite for her question. It is something that is of obviously deep concern to her and a deep concern that we share. We know that too many Canadians living with disabilities are faced with economic challenges that other Canadians don't have to face. That is going to be part of our accessibility legislation to ensure that Canada offers the full opportunities for each and every one of us to achieve our potential, regardless of the barriers that we may face. I thank the member for her question.
The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, access to reliable broadband internet is important for today's economy. It's important for everything, for daily life, but many regions in our country still lack good connections, especially in rural and remote communities. Even in my riding of Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord, the infrastructure required to support adequate broadband service isn't available. That's why I was pleased to hear that Connect to Innovate will solve this problem. Can our Prime Minister update this House on this matter of importance to Canadians? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I would like to thank the member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord for his question and for his passion for his beautiful region. Internet access is an essential aspect of daily life. With Connect to Innovate, we're investing up to $500 million to give internet access to 300 rural communities. I was in Roberval to announce $13 million for high-speed internet service for the regions in Saguenay, Lac-Saint-Jean, and La Mauricie. These are investments that are necessary, which we will ensure that more possibilities for Canadians.
The Prime Minister has been asked the clear question. When did he know that his Minister of Finance held $40 million in Morneau-Chapelle? He dismissed that as a petty question because, Mr. Speaker, the pensions of Canadians apparently are petty to this Prime Minister. He regulates pensions and his company profits from pensions. That is an obvious potential conflict of interest. So once again, when did this Prime Minister know that his Minister of Finance had $40 million invested in Morneau Shepell?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I expect all parliamentarians on both sides of this aisle to work with the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner to ensure that all the rules are followed. In the case of the Finance Minister, he took the advice of the Ethics Commissioner and has even offered to do more if she feels he needs to do more. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, we will stay focused on what matters to Canadians, and what matters to Canadians aren't personal attacks, are delivering on lowering taxes for the middle class, on lowering taxes for small businesses, and on growing the economy in a way that helps everyone in this country, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, today, the Quebec Legislative Assembly passed its bill on religious neutrality. Whether one agrees with it or not, it is that Assembly's absolute right. Will the Prime Minister commit not to intervening, unlike what happened with Bill 99? Will the Prime Minister commit not to challenging Bill 62 in court and to not funding challenges of this bill should they occur? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms applies to every Canadian. The responsibilities of the Prime Minister include upholding the Charter, and I will continue to work to ensure that all Canadians are protected by the Charter while respecting the choices that different legislative assemblies can make. Here at the federal level, we defend every Canadian's rights.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of His Excellency Gordon Jandrokovic, Speaker of the Croatian Parliament. I would also like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the participants in the 14th Canadian Parliamentary Seminar organized by the Canadian branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Good.
Orders of the day. Orders du jour. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, we got to do routine. We're just kidding. Not yet. Alors,
Order.
j'ai l'honneur d'informer la Chambre.
It's my honor to inform the House that a message has been received. A bill received royal assent. The bill that takes measures against foreign nationals who have breached the law, and it is also an act that takes economic measures and protects refugees. S-226, a bill amending the criminal code protecting journalistic sources. S-231.
From the House that a communication has been received as follows. Bills assented to this day, Wednesday, October the 18th, 2017, an act to provide for the taking of restrictive measures in respect of foreign nationals responsible for gross violations of internationally recognized human rights, and to make related amendments to the Special Economic Measures Act and the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, Bill S-226. Also, an act to amend the Canada Evidence Act and the Criminal Code Protection of Journalistic Sources, Bill S-231. Tabling of documents, dépôt de documents, introduction of government bills, statements by ministers, déclaration des ministres, reports from interparliamentary delegations. The Honourable Member for Kenora.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 34-1, I have the honour to present to the House in both official languages 3 reports of the Canadian section of Parliamericus. Firstly, its bilateral visit to Havana, Cuba from March 13th to 15th, 2017, and its participation at the second gathering of the Open Parliament Network and the 42nd meeting of Parliamericus Board of Directors held in San Jose, Costa Rica from March 15th to 18th, 2017. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, its participation at the 9th gathering of the group of women parliamentarians and the 43rd meeting of the Parliamericus Board of Directors held in Buenos Aires, Argentina